As a fiber artist, honestly, if you don't like the look of buttons, you are missing out. And I love the look of buttons, so I wanted to do a button pillow. And the easy way was, of course, sewing one, but I can't take the easy way, and so I wanted to make one in punch needle. And yes, I thought it was gonna be easy and quick, and I did want to have the holes in it, like a real button. So the first thing I did was taking my frame, taking my fabric, and trying my best to draw a circle, which was definitely not an easy thing by itself. But I tried this method of having a pencil in the center and a string attached to it with the marker, and it worked quite alright. So I'm gonna take it as a good way to make a circle. I think that honestly, as you can see from the number of lines of the fabric, I struggled a little bit into drawing the inner circle and then the details of the holes of the buttons, but somehow we did it. I managed. This kind of frame uses tiny little nails to keep the fabric taut when you work, so I actually use two covers for the frame to not pin myself while I work. For this project I'm using some acrylic yarn, and my punch needle is from the brand Knit Pro. I'm using acrylic because I'm trying to de-stash my acrylic yarn stash, since I'm not buying anymore and I don't really like acrylic yarn, so I'm just trying to use it all. And these are the two colors I've chose, orange and yellow, because they are the one I had the most number of skein in my stash, and so I was pretty confident I would use it all. I started by doing a little sample just to see if the height of the loops that I have chosen was alright with me, and it was. And so I started punch needling. Is punch needling even a word? I saw some people calling it embroidering, but it sounds a bit weird since I'm an embroidery artist. I do modern embroidery as well as some cross stitch, and this is very different from that, so I don't know. But yeah, is punch needling a verb? Should we call it that?
Eu já cansei de te chamar pra tu sair de casa, mas você só continua com essa enrolação. Eu já cansei de te chamar pra tu sair de casa.
I was working on this project while working on other projects as well, and just taking breaks from one and starting working on this and vice versa. So this was made in a really long time. This was like 3 months of work, just not continuous work.
Eu já cansei de te chamar pra tu sair de casa, mas você só continua com essa enrolação. Eu já cansei de te chamar pra tu sair de casa, mas você só continua com essa enrolação. Eu já limpei e arrumei o que você pediu, enquanto você tinha almoço para cozinhar. E mesmo assim, depois de tudo, você não saiu. Repita que agora vai preparar o jantar.
And once I was done with the inner circle of the button, I knew I wanted to add some height to my loops to make the outer circle, the border of the button. I really don't know if there are specific terms for this, but I hope you will understand as you see it come into life. probably shocking to no one except for me. Making the outer border took even longer. Well, not as long as the center of the button, but it did take very long because when working with longer loops, you have to punch even more. But the effect that was coming out was stunning, and so I just kept on punching. Punch needling? Maybe punching is the right one. I was very happy when I finished the first half of my button, but yeah, I did not want to work on it anymore for now, and I wanted to have the second half done before making any holes and cutting the fabric. So I just rolled it up, put it on the side, and started again the whole process. But this time I decided to use yellow yarn because, well, I had those skeins around, and I think you won't notice when you look at the finished pillow button because you're gonna just see one of the sides. And so the process began again. For this side of the button, I wanted to try another method of working with punch needle, which is to work in rows, just as you would lay bricks on a wall, and not in circles. And I would stop my rows when I encountered the button holes, and then I would resume making the rows. So keep moving into one row after the other. And in my head it was quicker, but I didn't really time myself, so I wouldn't know. I'm excited to get this out of the frame and to see if the width of the button matches with the other side. So let's go. I have taken both of the sides of the button out of the frame, and I've tried to lay them flat against each other just to see if the dimensions were correct. And I believe the yellow is slightly bigger, just half a centimeter or so, which is all right, because when you stretch the fabric onto the frame, it's possible that the lines are stretching with that too. And I know that on this specific side, since it was the first one I drew, so it was the one where I traced the line over and over again. The lines were a little bit thicker, and I decided to punch needle and embroider up until the end of the ink. So it's all right, not a problem at all, because since this is gonna be a pillow and it's gonna be a little bit fluffy, you won't be really able to see the actual dimension of the button, because it's gonna, when something has some three-dimensionality to it, it's different to when it falls flat. So yeah, I was thinking of stitching the two sides together with some yellow thread, just because I like yellow, and I think I have more yellow yarn left. But now I'm debating that, just because if I use the orange, would that help the orange to maybe be a little thicker? And maybe it just won't count at all. One other thing I can say is that I changed midway into doing this. I was doing it in rounds, and then I stopped and tried doing it in rows, and it shows, and I did not know it could show like this. So yeah, you can see there's a kind of step where the two different techniques are used. But that's all right, once again, since this is a piece for my home and not like for an installation or an art piece or whatever. Nobody has to judge me beside me and you. I still think it looks very cute and it's very soft, so check on that. I think it can be trimmed a little bit. It has some loops that are floating around, but I won't be bothered with that until like the final step. Now I want to glue the back sides of this so the loops of thread will stay in place, and after that I'm going to cut the excess fabric all around it and cut the holes of the button, because one of the things I want to achieve with this pillow is that the buttonholes are real. A pretty hot and humid day today, so I think they will dry in about 4 to 5 hours, but nonetheless I'm gonna leave them as they are for overnight for sure, and I don't know if I have time to work on them tomorrow, so I'm gonna see you as soon as I get on them. It's the next day and everything feels dry and everything smells like colla vinilica. Yeah, I think I'm gonna cut out the fabric that I don't need, cut out the circles, maybe I do that later, and pair them up, sew them up, fill them up. I thought a bit about how to approach this, and I'm honestly thinking about fixing the holes first. For two reasons, because it is the thing that it scares me the most of this project, so once I get that out, I think I'm gonna be pretty confident in the outcome. And I won't be able to do them if I do all the circumference and the filling before them. So I think by doing them first, I can then fill a tiny bit the cross that go inside, and then fill, well, sew the outer space, leave a gap, and put the filling over there. So that's the plan. How to approach this? one buttonhole, and this is the look up close. And yeah, it's not as easy or as quick as I thought it would be. So it does strain a little bit, but the yellow is good even on the orange side, and it is a bit slanted just because, as I said, it's not easy to get perfect proportion with this kind of fabric. And yeah, it took me almost 40 minutes. 40 minutes just for one buttonhole, and I'm gonna make 4, and then I'm gonna do all the circumference, which is gonna take a lot of time. So I severely underestimated this whole project in terms of timings. But I am liking it so far, and I have some tips for me if I ever want to do this again, or you if you want to try this out. So first of all, I would have loved to put some fabric also on the edge, or some tape, just to keep it from fraying, because it's fraying a lot now since I'm working and moving it around. And the same on the inner buttonholes. The fabric on there, if I had put glue on them, it would not fray as much as it's doing. This is not a problem at all, since everything is gonna get stitched and inside of the pillow, but it's just you get a lot of this while working, which is not the best. But yeah, I just take them aside. I love to work in a clean workspace, kind of. And I started stitching holding one thread and making a knot on the long tail, but now I'm actually making a knot between the two tails and working with 2 strands at the same time. So this is making the process a tad quicker, just because it covers the stitch and the fabric quicker, and so I don't have to stitch it over and over to cover the fabric. It's not a perfect process, it was never meant to be. I'm just glad the vision is coming into fruition, and yeah, now let's just repeat this 3 more times. I made the buttonholes, so it now actually properly looks like a button. That's a bit. The other one were a bit quicker than the first, and using 2 strands of yarn helped. I'm actually thinking that if I were to use like 3 or 4, it would come a bit bulkier, but it will get the fabric covered up much quicker. And in the end, this took me 2 hours, so a whole episode of Final Draft and the whole movie bonus track 2023, which actually was written and stars Josh O'Connor, and I just find out that the song in the movie was written by Ollie Alexander. We love gay movies, alright? Just such a cute movie, very simple but effective. And yeah, so after 2 hours of work, I am a bit spent, but I think I'm gonna try to fill out a bit this area, because I won't be able to reach it further along. I actually think that when I start working on the circumference, I'm gonna work a bit, fill it out, work a bit, fill it out, work a bit, because even if I leave a gap, it's going to be very difficult to go and fill out the opposite side of the gap, since well, it has passing holes in the middle. So yeah, that's the plan. Let's see how much it can fluff up. Just a bit. We don't want it too much of a fluff. I want it to resemble a button, so this part is not going to be extremely thick. But I do believe if you wanted more of a pillow, so if you wanted thicker, you should have done this sewing that I did just now loosely or with something already in between the two pieces, so it will come out thicker. Yeah, that's my idea. Midpoint check, so I have half of it still to sew and half of it is done. I'm honestly loving the way the bulk of it kinda of hide the stitches. Not bad. But I think I would have loved for the brim of the button to kind of be more 3D, more textural, so I would have had to make longer loops, but when it laid flat, they were long enough. Just now, since they are becoming more 3D, you kind of lose them. You can see them, but it's not as effective as I would have liked. Anyway, still good. As I said, I'm filling this up as I go, and I think that's the smart choice, because now from here it would be extremely difficult to get on the other side. And yeah, I worked on this literally the entire day, and my arms are getting a bit tired, so I think I'm gonna stop for today, and I'm gonna finish it either this evening on the sofa or in the next few days. I don't think I need much more time. I think like maybe 2 hours will do the trick. But yeah, this is where I'm at. I will make the subtitles for this video, and if I have the energy, I will also make the Italian dubbing for it, and then and only then am I gonna allow myself to work a little bit more on the pillow, and yeah. My needle just snapped like 2 stitches before the end of the work. Oh, such a shame. I have other needles, of course, but well, this is this is the sign of my patient running thin. Yeah. Let's make the last few stitches with a metal needle. By the way, plastic needle will snap, but metal needles will bend, so it's not like you're safer with either or, so choose whatever's best for you, what's more comfortable, what you have around and in your house. But I had that blue needle since the beginning of my knitting journey, because it was in my mother's sewing kit and she gave it to me when I told her I wanted to start learning knitting and crochet. And the whole case had 3 identical blue needles, so I have 2 more identical to that one, but I think I'm gonna take better care of them. Maybe of the last one, like I can still break one and then I'm gonna keep the last one as a memory. But yeah, that can happen, and it's alright. We'll live with that. It accompanied me on many good adventures, and it helped me hide many ends and many tails in my crochet, knitting, embroidery, punch needle, tapestry journeys. So are we done? It's done. It's closed. Let's cut this yarn. All right. So now I'm gonna cut some of the yarn that are a bit longer than the others, I think. And that will be it. We're gonna see how it looks on the sofa. Yes. Final rush. Final rush. I honestly think it looks great. It's extremely whimsical. I absolutely love that the buttonholes are real, so you can spin it around. I think it suits my sofa very well. I just think it's a lovely accent, like anybody would come to the door, look at the sofa and go like, that's a weird looking pillow, you know? As for its pillow quality, I would say it's good for the head, maybe good for the butt. So that's approved. That's what pillows are supposed to do. Doing it double colored, I wasn't super sure about that, but now I'm kind of glad I did, because you can literally flip it around and it has a whole other vibe to it, you know? And so it's perfect for my Halloween decor when I make my Halloween party, and it can be perfect also for my house decor since it's mostly green and yellow. I can't wait to introduce my cats to it, because they usually love to either nap or scratch my punch needle items, so we'll see how it goes with this one. Yeah, I think if I were to do another, which I don't think I will, just because it takes a lot of time, but if I had a lot of time on my hands and I could do it again, I would glue the fabric for the inside of the buttonholes already on the, like, cut it before and glue it to the side so it doesn't mess when you're sewing, since it wasn't super easy. I would make the border just a tad higher, so all the loops just a tad higher, so it has a bit more of a wow effect when you hold it. And I will not work in a circle and then start working in rows, because as we can see, it has a bit of a bad effect. The more you learn. Anyway, this was my making of a button punch needle pillow, and I think it really add whimsy to my home. I really hope you enjoyed this. If you like this video, subscribe, like, comment, whatever. I would really love to see you in another one. And if you have had any experiences with punch needle before, tell me in the comments. I want to know, what are you using punch needle for? I want more ideas. I love this medium, and I made so many coasters and wall hangings, and now a pillow is already far out. But if you had any other ideas, let me know in the comments. I really hope you enjoyed this one, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!